Chapter 5 The Drama Queen. Nancy held the barrette out to George and Bess. At first, I thought it was a Z shape, she said. She turned it sideways, but now I'm wondering if it's an N shape. Maybe, George said. Bess nodded slowly. She seemed to be following Nancy's train of thought. That means it could be Nadine's. She wears barrettes. Nancy leaned back against her pile of fluffy pillows and was quiet. Nadine was really, really mad that Andrea got to be Cinderella instead of her, Nancy said after a while. George nodded. It looked like she tried to trip Andrea yesterday at rehearsal, but it might have been an accident. No way, Beth said. She grabbed a handful of buttery popcorn that Hannah had made for the girls. That was no accident. So maybe Nadine stole the slippers to ruin the Cinderella ballet for Andrea and everybody else, Nancy mused. And while she was stealing them, her barrette fell and got stuck in the crack in the shelf. George typed everything into the computer. Let's look at it from a different angle. What if the barrette fell and got stuck there some other time? Like last week or last month or whatever, she said out loud. Or what if the barrette belongs to somebody else with the initial N? Bess added. I think we need to talk to Nadine as soon as possible, Nancy announced. I have to ask you something, Nancy told Nadine. It was Thursday, a few minutes before rehearsal. The studio was already crowded with dancers who were stretching and getting ready. Nancy, Bess, and George had found Nadine in the corner by herself. Nadine tucked her back, her black leg warmers over her tights, and glanced up at Nancy and her friends. What? She asked suspiciously. Nancy pulled a silver barrette out of her dance bag and held it out to Nadine. Is this yours? Nadine stared at the barrette. Nope, that's not mine. Lately, I only wear barrettes that are shaped like flowers, animals, or musical notes. That one is shaped like, well, I'm not sure what it's shaped like. It's either a lightning bolt or a really skinny tree. Actually, we think it's the letter N, George piped up. We? What do you mean we? We are not. You are not one of your crazy clue cases, are you? Nadine asked. We are. We are trying to find the missing Cinderella slippers, Bess replied. This barrette is a clue, a very important clue. Nadine's jaw dropped. Am I one of your suspects? She demanded. Where were you between the end of Tuesday's rehearsal and the beginning of Wednesday's rehearsal? Nancy asked her. Did you steal the slippers? Bess bursted out. What made you do it, Nadine? George added. I don't believe this, Nadine exclaimed. Of course I didn't steal those stupid slippers. Why is everyone so worried about them anyway? Andrea can wear another pair of ballet shoes. I am the real victim here. I was rejected for the part of Cinderella. Not once, but twice. She held out two fingers and stabbed them in the air dramatically. Maybe you stole the slippers because you are mad about not getting the part, Beth said. Of course I'm mad. I should have been Cinderella. Nadine huffed. But why would I make things even worse by committing a crime? I don't want to spend opening night in jail. Nancy, Beth, and George exchanged a look. Nadine was being her usual drama queen self. But was she telling the truth about not stealing the slippers? Sometimes clues are a lot easier to figure out than people, Nancy thought. On the studio floor, rehearsal was underway for one of the Act Two scenes. Nancy watched George, Beth, and some of the other dancers practicing pirouettes with Mr. McGuire's help. Pirouettes involved spinning on one foot and were difficult to do. Nancy was not in this scene, so she took the opportunity to do a second search for clues. This time she crawled around on the floor on her hands and knees to get a real close look. She peeked into every crevice. She peered into every nook and cranny. She found a lot of rusty bobby pins, empty paper cups, and dust bunnies. Yuck, she thought, making a face. And then she found something a little more interesting in the storage area. It was a small piece of white paper, half hidden under a shelf. She picked it up and stared at it closely. It said, Tale 35. Nancy frowned. What did tell mean? Was that code for something? Then she noticed that the word tale 35 were written in the same fancy cursive style as the letters on the Cinderella shoebox. Maybe the price of the piece of paper came from inside the shoebox, she thought. It's definitely a clue, Nancy told herself. She stuffed the piece of paper in her pocket and made a mental note to discuss it with her fellow crew detectives later. Then she brushed the dust off her tights and headed over to where her dance bag lay on the floor. On her way, she almost tripped over Gregory's legs. He was sitting on the floor, going through his own dance bag. Scruffy was sitting next to him, sniffing everything. Gregory moved his legs out of the way. Oh, sorry, he mumbled. Nancy glanced down. Gregory had dumped some of the contents of his dance bag out on the floor. There were some dirty socks, a water bottle, some school notebooks, homework assignments, a half-eaten granola bar, dirty t-shirts, and a dirty towel. What a mess! What? Are you cleaning out your bag? Nancy asked him curiously. Gregory shook his head. Nah, just looking for something. Oh. Nancy turned to go, but just then she noticed something shiny and glittery in the pile of Gregory's stuff. It was a rhinestone, a small clear heart-shaped rhinestone. It looked just like the rhinestones from the missing Cinderella slippers.